A7S3 test. So if you're deciding to start a wedding photography business or portrait photography business, or just taking your hobby into something where you're going to start making money and booking clients, it's really important that you have a good process and good systems in place that, keep it efficient, stop you from double booking jobs, and just keep all your invoices and tax clean and everything like that. So in today's video, I'm going to go through my whole booking process from the inquiry that I get through my contact form into sending the invoice to my clients, and just keeping everything on track. I'm going to show you guys some of the software I use, and at the end of the video I'm going to be answering your questions that you posted in my community section. So I'll put timestamps in the description so you guys can go through and skip different sections and go back and forth. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible, but with giving you guys all the information you need. So the majority of my inquiries come through either two main streams, which is referrals from other clients or people that were at weddings that I've shot or something like that. And the other main one would be Google, so people searching like Auckland wedding photographer or New Zealand wedding photographer. After referrals and Google, I do get some inquiries from social media. It used to be Facebook a lot more, but that's kind of just died off nowadays, and any inquiries I get usually come from Instagram. But saying that, when they see my Instagram, it seems like they usually, they'll go through my Instagram photos and then they'll click on the link in my Instagram that goes to my website. And then they can see more information, and they usually will inquire through that anyway. I do have my prices on my website, so that does help with my situation in particular, but we'll talk about pricing in a minute. So my contact form, well, let's go back. So my website is on Squarespace. That's what I've been using for the past year, I think. Before that, I was using WordPress, and I had a few issues with it, and I just found that Squarespace was just easier to work with. But my contact form used to be the one that is included in Studio Ninja, which is the CRM software I'm using. However, I found I was having a few issues with that, and not all inquiries were coming through, which to me is a pretty bad situation. I don't know if they've fixed it, but I just kind of ditched it, and I'm still using Studio Ninja, but I use the contact form in Squarespace, and I've not had any issues since. So I'm just going to stick with that and use Studio Ninja for everything else. Now, because I have my prices on my website, most of the inquiries I get through my contact form are you available on this date? This is where we're getting married, and we'd just love to check if you're available, and we can take it from there. Now you guys have to decide for yourselves what you're going to do, but if you're not going to have your prices on your website, I would definitely suggest having a starting price at least that's accurate, that gives you a kind of ballpark figure of what you're going to be looking at. I just find, and I've heard a lot, that people shopping around for photographers, it's really frustrating and annoying if they have no idea how much anything's going to cost. And I have heard in the past where people have booked me saying that they looked at a whole bunch of other photographers, and a lot of them they liked, but they just skipped it because there was no prices and they couldn't be bothered with the conversation just to find out if they were in the ballpark. However, if you don't have your prices on, like I said, you're going to get a lot more inquiries. You're just going to get ghosted a lot more as well. So in the past, I would get up to 20 inquiries a week sometimes in peak season, and I'd send off my prices and maybe 3 of them would come back, and the rest you just wouldn't hear from. And maybe that's because they found someone else, maybe it's because I was too expensive, but I have no idea because they're never going to come back to me. Now, because I have my prices up, I get way less inquiries, but they're all really solid inquiries. So I've got the website inquiry in my inbox, and my first reply is typically always the same. I say, if I am available on a date, I say, yep, I'm available. I'd love to catch up with you guys and have a chat over a beer or a coffee or whatever you want to do. I do that because past experience has told me that when I can meet up with my clients and sort of form a bit of a friendship with them, it's very rare that they wouldn't book me at that stage. They already know my price, they already like my images, so from there it's just kind of getting to know each other and seeing if we fit together. If I'm not available on the date, I don't just go back and say, sorry, I'm not available, and leave it at that. Instead, I'll always go back to a local community and other photographers I know and just ask a few people if they're available, and then I'll go back and send the referrals to these couples that are looking for a wedding photographer. A, because it's helpful, and it's really hard to find a good wedding photographer, and B, it helps my colleagues that are maybe trying to book dates that I'm already booked for, and it's just good to be a part of the community and share inquiries and bookings with everybody else. Now, talking about the meeting itself, I'm usually just concerned with the couple themselves. I want to know about them, how they met. We'll talk about hobbies and things like that, things they're interested in, what they do on the weekends and what they do in their free time. It's a really good way to sort of get a gauge on who these people are and what the wedding's going to be like. Eventually you get really good at reading people and figuring it out. It's just a really good way to build friendships with people. So after we've got to know each other a little bit, I usually go into the invoicing and the contracts and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty basic on my end. I always tell them that it's a 35% deposit, which is a non-refundable like booking fee. And then the balance of the wedding is due 30 days before the wedding. And I always explain to them there's no hidden cost or anything. You get full res images and you can share them wherever you like. You can print them wherever you like. They're your photos. We both own them, but I have copyright, and that just means that I don't want you guys going out and editing the photos and with like a bad Instagram filter, putting them online with my name on it, because that can be affecting my brand and how people see my work. So that's the reason I still have copyright, and it's the same reason I don't give raw files. Then I tell them that my contract is all online. You don't have to print it out or anything. It's just a really easy process, and if you have any questions about it or concerns with the contract, just let me know anytime. We can talk about anything you like. I do find that most couples don't really come with like official questions or anything like that. Some people do, but which I really like actually. It's quite good to have like really proper hard questions to answer. I guess my only real advice for the meetings is just being really upfront and open and just, explaining what you do and what you don't do. So sometimes people will come up and show me photos with their phones on like photos they really like from other photographers and stuff. And that's where I'll sort of say that, I do my thing, how I do it, and if you want what's on my website, you've really got to just trust me that, to leave me to do my thing, and then you'll get that product. It's going to be great. So it's about trust, and, I don't take photo lists or anything like that other than the family photos after the ceremony. However, I'm obviously open to their style and what they want and where they want to shoot. So if they tell me they really like forest photos, I'm not going to take them to the beach. You know what I mean? You've got to work with these people. They are paying you to be there and photograph their wedding, but at the same time, you've got to be true to your style, and you can't be doing copying everybody else. So the meeting went by, assuming it all went well, and we got on fine and had some good chats. If they haven't got back to me that next afternoon, usually I'll send them a text or an email and just say something like, it was great to meet you guys. If you have any questions, don't forget to ask me anything. I'm an open book, and yeah, it was really fun last night having a chat with you guys. Now, more often than not, the reply to that message is, yeah, we had a great time as well. We'd love to book you in. Send us the invoice and the contract, and we'd love to work with you. I find it's just a good reminder for them to send them a message, just to keep it fresh in their minds. And people get busy, so for me it just works well. And yeah, sometimes they say, yeah, we'll get back to you, no worries. And it's just how business works. Now, assuming I've got the go ahead and they want to lock it in, I go into my CRM, which is Client Relationship Management, I think, or something like that. And I use Studio Ninja. You guys have probably heard about it, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. I've used like Waze and a couple of other ones I can't remember off the top of my head, but Studio Ninja has been the best overall so far, and that's kind of what I'm sticking to at the moment. So anyway, I go into Studio Ninja and I start making up the invoice. Now I have templates that are based off my website packages, because I want what's on the website to be exactly what's on the invoice, so everybody knows what they're getting and there's no surprises or questions about what's going to be coming up and what they're paid for. I put the payment terms in, which is the 35% deposit with like a 7-day due date on that, and then the balance paid 30 days before the wedding. From there, I go ahead and add my contract, which is based off something that we have an organization here in New Zealand called the AIPA, and they have contract templates for individual genres of photography that you can go ahead and download and then customize them to yourself, which is what I did, because they're really good and it's a really helpful thing to have. I've added my own little bits and pieces to the contract, but I'll put a link to that AIPA standard one. Now, that's only really going to be relevant for New Zealand, but I'm sure wherever you are in the world, you're going to have some kind of organization like that as well. So have a look at that one. It just gives you a good sort of roundabouts of what you want to be adding. But you do want to have things in there like non-refundable deposits if that's what you want to do. So from there, Studio Ninja automatically sends the invoice to my accounting software, which is called Xero, and then my accountants can do all their magic and do whatever they do to keep my business going. I always recommend getting a good accountant because it's just something you need, and it's just too difficult unless you're really good at it, I guess, but concentrate on the things that you do well at and delegate the rest of it, in my opinion. Studio Ninja also puts the event in my Google Calendar, so it makes it really difficult, if not impossible, to double book anything. If I go ahead and try and book another thing on the day, it's going to tell me that I already have an event for that day, which is great. And Studio Ninja does a whole pile of other things like questionnaires and scheduling, workflow, and everything else that you might need from a CRM management software. I definitely don't use it to its full potential, and if you are using the contact form in Studio Ninja, it automatically adds the leads and everything into the system so you can go back and check. But like I said, I had issues with it. It's probably fixed by now, but it's just kind of left a little bit of a scar for me. Now, because of this current situation and we've been having lockdowns and stuff like that, I do have a clause for that, and it just basically says that if we go into another lockdown or something, your deposit is fully transferable. There's not going to be any fees. So we just work together to find a date, basically. But I tell all my couples this in the meetings as well, that, you know, if it all goes to shit and we've got to move the date, then we just work together and figure it out, and it'll totally be fine. You guys are going to have to decide what you want to do with that situation, but in my honest opinion, I think that we're all going to lose out a little bit, and we just have to work together. You can't be charging extra deposits and stuff because of something that's totally out of their control, in my opinion. But you guys do what you want. I'm not judging anybody. You just have to make the call for yourself. So once that's all done, it's pretty much locked in, and we don't really have a whole bunch to do from here. Really, the next time I talk to them is if we're doing an engagement shoot or if I'm helping them plan their timeline or whatever. Some couples are way more active than others, but I make it really, really clear that they can feel free to add me on social media on my personal account, and, you know, we can just chat, get to know you guys. I can send you referrals for other vendors you might need. I'm always recommending like DJs and celebrants and stuff like that. So, you know, just helping them plan the day out is sort of part of my job as well, and I'm totally happy to do that. So, you know, some couples I talk to a whole bunch and we sort of get to know each other. I'll invite them around to my house and do a little bit of planning or something, but it's totally up to them, and I leave it up to them. So now you guys had a bunch of questions in my community section, so I'm going to go through those now and explain if I haven't already. Now, the first question was about clients requesting photoshopping little details and being really picky with stuff like that. And whether I have something like that in my contract. Now, I don't have anything specific about Photoshop in general, but there is something in there about editing and how it's up to me as the artist to edit as I wish. And really it comes down to explaining in the meeting that, you know, the style on my website is pretty much the style you're going to get. It's not going to stray too far from that. And yeah, I don't spend any time changing people's faces and making you look skinnier. Arthur asked me about where the bookings come from, and I've already kind of addressed that a little bit. But like I said, it's mostly referrals, and then a lot of from Google search, and then some from Instagram, a little bit from Facebook. And I do get referrals from other vendors like wedding venues, celebrants, other photographers. So it is important to be a part of the community as well, and sort of I really try and make an effort to get on, especially with like wedding venues, because they're usually what people book first. And if you're a really helpful photographer, it's quite good to get referrals from them. So that's been really helpful in the past as well. Brian asked, how often do I communicate with them post-booking? Again, I've already kind of addressed that a little bit, but yeah, I guess it's totally up to them. But like I said, I always tell them they can contact me as much as they want. I'm always happy to help. But the main points would be the engagement shoot and a planning of the timeline. And I also usually go to the rehearsals if I'm available. It's usually like on a Thursday afternoon or something. So I'll go along to the rehearsal and meet the families in the bridal party. And I find that gets a whole nother level of chill, and you know, they just relax a little bit more when they just see, you know, I'm not some uptight photographer. And when I get there in the morning, it's just they already know my face, and it's just really easy to just get straight into it. John asked me, do I send any FAQ pages or anything like that afterwards? I don't at the moment, but you know, I'm more of a verbal person. I like to talk to them and explain things to them a lot in the meeting. So anything I send is probably already going to be talked about, but it is something I've thought about doing. I'm just really bad at writing stuff like that, so I would just pay someone else to do it. But I definitely don't have anything against it. If it's something you want to do or you do, then totally keep doing it. Red Baron Productions asked the next few questions. The first three I've already kind of answered a little bit, but the last one was, how do I deal with an unhappy client? Now, I'm not bragging or anything, but I really haven't had any serious issues. You know, I've made little mistakes here and there, and I really only had one problem quite a few years ago with just someone being really unreasonable, but it doesn't really matter what the issue is, whether it's your fault or their fault or whatever. My advice with dealing with an unhappy client or an issue in general is just being really upfront and really honest, especially if you've made a mistake. Don't try and make shit up. Just go ahead and explain exactly what's happened and how you're going to fix it and what you need to do. Just, be totally upfront and honest and deal with everything straight away. Don't leave it or anything like that. The more efficient you are of dealing with problems, the easier they're going to trust you. This is also one of the reasons I really like to get to know my couples, because they know who I am and there's not going to be any surprises on the day. So when you have a little bit of a bond and a little bit of a friendship with people, if there's issues in the future, it's really going to be a lot easier to deal with these things. Digital Dave Tech had a few questions as well. Some of them I've already answered. The first one I will go over, and that is, what do I do if the client wants to amend the contract post or pre-signing? If they've signed it already, then the contract's a contract. But I've had very rare occasions where people want to change the contract beforehand. I've done probably over 300 weddings now, and I think I've had, that I can remember, maybe 3 or 4 situations where people wanted to change the contract, and usually it comes down to copyright and giving of raw files or something like that. But it's really gonna have to be something that you're gonna take on an individual basis. And my advice with that is just to be totally true to what you want to do. If you don't want to change something, but you feel like you're doing it because you're going to get the job, I would really second guess that, and I probably wouldn't be doing something like that. And as far as question goes, that's pretty much it. I think I've addressed everything else. So I'm going to try and keep this video as short as possible in the editing suite, but hopefully it doesn't drag on too long and this was helpful for you guys. So thanks for watching, subscribe, like, do all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you in the next video in a couple of days.